Hello friends. If you were born on January 2nd, or if you love someone who was, you're about to discover that there's far more to this birthdate than being an early Capricorn. Behind that steady demeanor is a tapestry woven with ambition, mystery, and surprising emotional depth. Today, we'll explore what makes January 2 born individuals so uniquely compelling, from love and passion to business acumen, friendship dynamics, and even the spiritual echoes of Druidic, Vedic, and numerological influences. The Capricorn core, what January 2nd really means. Being born on January 2nd places you in the earliest, most pristine energy of the Capricorn zodiac. This isn't just about being organized or goal-driven, it's about being quietly powerful. January 2nd Capricorns are strategic by instinct and emotionally layered by design. Think of them as the architects of their own reality. They're the people who step into a chaotic room, sense every unspoken tension, and start making a mental checklist of how to fix it, all without saying a word. Unlike the louder signs who demand attention, those born on this day command respect through consistent actions, wise choices, and a calm authority that often intimidates before it charms. Saturn, their ruling planet, doesn't just hand out discipline, it bestows life lessons in responsibility, time, and legacy. January 2nd Capricorns absorb those lessons earlier than most. Many report feeling like old souls in their youth, already attuned to the weight of expectations and long-term goals while their peers are still playing tag. But this pressure, instead of breaking them, sharpens them. Their resilience is quiet but absolute. They don't brag. They build. But here's the twist. While many Capricorns can lean into rigidity or emotional detachment, January 2nd natives have a unique blend of emotional intelligence and internal softness. They're often described as serious but sweet, or guarded but poetic. They feel deeply, but that depth doesn't always find expression in loud ways. Instead, it surfaces in the form of small, considerate actions, listening more than they speak, remembering details that matter to others, and putting heart into everything they do. They're natural protectors of dreams, people, and principles. While other Capricorns might chase status for its own sake, January 2nd individuals crave meaningful success, the kind built on values, not vanity. Their definition of achievement is deeply personal. It might be building a company, writing a novel, or raising a family with fierce loyalty and intention. Whatever it is, they approach it with unshakable focus and quiet passion. When you meet someone born on this day, you're meeting someone who doesn't just set goals, they turn them into monuments. Love, the slow burn that lasts a lifetime. Love, for someone born on January 2nd, is never impulsive, and never casual. These Capricorns love with their full selves, brain, body, and soul. But they don't broadcast that love in over-the-top declarations or grand romantic gestures. They show it in consistency. They show it in loyalty. They show it in the way they anticipate your needs before you even voice them. To them, love is a sacred bond, not a fleeting thrill. And because they value emotional safety, they move slowly. Intimacy is earned over time, not because they're cold, but because they're cautious about giving their heart to just anyone. When they do fall, though, it's deep, it's unwavering, and it's profoundly protective. A January 2nd lover will build a future with you, piece by piece. They'll look 10 years ahead and ask, how do we get there together? They may not express their love through constant compliments, but they'll learn your schedule, fix your car battery before it dies, and remember your childhood fears. In their world, romance is about reliability and emotional shelter. Their ideal partner is someone who honors the same level of depth and commitment. Taurus and Virgo are often strong matches because they mirror that steady emotional cadence. Scorpio intrigues them with intensity, while Pisces touches their rarely seen sentimental side. With Leo or Aries, it can be electric at first. Leo dazzles, Aries excites, but long-term compatibility is tricky unless both parties evolve emotionally. Gemini and Sagittarius, though charming, often feel too scattered, too unpredictable, or too focused on freedom for a Capricorn's deep-rooted style of love. But here's the most captivating thing: when you earn the love of a January 2 born, you're not just dating someone. You're building a legacy with them. And legacies aren't built overnight. They're carved in trust, sealed with effort, and designed to last generations. Sex, intensity hidden beneath the surface. Don't let the buttoned-up Capricorn image fool you. January 2 borns are smoldering below the surface. They may present a calm, collected front in public, but in private, they're deeply sensual, wildly intuitive lovers who crave not just physical release, but emotional fusion. Their sexuality is not performative, it's purposeful. They don't do sex for validation or attention. They do it as a form of trust, of bonding, of exploration. The secret to their passion? Control meets vulnerability. They want to be close, but only with someone who's earned it. They're not into one-night stands or reckless hookups. In fact, casual sex might feel empty or even unfulfilling for them. What excites them is the slow unfolding of mutual trust, those deep glances across the room, the steady hand on the lower back, the unspoken understanding that something real is happening. They're lovers who learn your rhythms, who adapt, who remember what you like and build on it. And once trust is fully established, they can absolutely surprise you. Behind the reserved exterior lies a fantasy-rich mind. They might not be vocal about their desires, but they have them. Whether it's experimentation, role play, or sensual dominance, they'll explore new dimensions, but only with a partner they feel emotionally safe with. Their pleasure comes from your pleasure. They're not in it for ego, they're in it for connection. Foreplay, for them, is a mental game as much as a physical one. Whispered secrets, intellectual teasing, lingering touches, these are the entry points. They value consistency over chaos, depth over novelty. And once you've unlocked their trust, they'll show you just how profound and powerful passion can be when it's anchored in emotional security. So, to sum it up, sex with a January 2 Capricorn is never casual, always intentional, and unforgettable, for all the right reasons. Marriage, built like a fortress. To someone born on January 2, marriage isn't a chapter in life, it's the entire architecture. It's the blueprint, the foundation, the roof, and the emotional insulation against everything outside the walls of partnership. Where many chase love for excitement or validation, January 2 Capricorns are looking for durability. They're not interested in the ephemeral. They don't want butterflies that vanish when real life begins. They want structure. They want a relationship that gets stronger under pressure, one built not on mood swings or illusions, but on truth, planning, shared goals, and the daily labor of love. This doesn't mean they're unromantic. Far from it. But their definition of romance is wildly different from Hollywood clichés. For them, love is the quiet consistency of being there. It's picking up groceries without being asked. It's knowing your partner's triggers and supporting them during moments of emotional exhaustion. It's doing taxes together while planning a dream vacation 5 years down the line. That might not sound glamorous, but to a January 2 Capricorn, that's what love is supposed to be: sustainable. They are allergic to chaos, allergic to drama, and deeply wary of people who love loudly but inconsistently. And that's why they don't jump into marriage. They wait. They evaluate. They watch closely, sometimes too closely. Many January 2 borns have a long history of quietly ending relationships they sense aren't going anywhere, even if the passion is strong. They value emotional security so highly that they would rather risk loneliness than be trapped in a partnership where they have to sacrifice their stability or purpose. They may take years before deciding someone is truly life partner material, and they often won't marry until they've built their careers, defined their personal ethics, or healed their emotional patterns. They want to come into marriage as a complete person, not someone hoping to be completed by another. And when they do say, "I do," it's not performative. It's sacred. It's like handing you a deed to part of their soul, and expecting you to co-sign the responsibility. They bring everything into a marriage: discipline, resourcefulness, emotional investment, and a relentless commitment to making things work. When conflicts arise, and they will, they don't default to escape. They default to problem solving. A January 2nd spouse is likely the one in therapy before there's a crisis, the one drawing up financial plans with backup contingencies, the one remembering anniversaries without needing reminders. They take the role seriously, not because they're control freaks, but because they truly see marriage as the most important partnership of their life. But despite all that structure, they still crave a touch of surprise. Their ideal spouse is reliable but refreshing, someone grounded, yet capable of pulling them out of their head and into the moment. Someone who honors the sanctity of a shared life, but also knows how to sneak them away for a spontaneous weekend road trip. Laughter is crucial. Not silliness, but the kind of laughter that comes from deep emotional safety. A Capricorn born on January 2nd will never be the most outwardly playful person in the room, but with the right partner, someone who makes them feel unjudged, safe, and seen, they'll loosen up, open up, and reveal a surprisingly tender, witty, and even goofy side of themselves that the world rarely gets to see. Emotionally, these individuals offer loyalty in its most grounded form. They're not up and down, they're not in and out. Once they're yours, they are yours, through hardship, through boredom, through the seasons of growth and stillness. But in return, they expect integrity. Dishonesty, irresponsibility, or flakiness can break their trust almost instantly. They don't forget betrayal, not because they're vindictive, but because trust is their currency. Once spent unwisely, it's incredibly hard to earn back. Even in long marriages, they continue to invest effort. They are the ones still planning dates 20 years in. The ones who push for family traditions. The ones who support your dreams while also managing the practical side of making those dreams possible. In many ways, they are emotional contractors, constantly checking the structure, ensuring the foundation is holding, doing the maintenance others forget. In times of emotional crisis, whether it's the death of a parent, the loss of a job, or personal health struggles, January 2nd Capricorns rise to the occasion like no one else. They don't panic. They don't flee. They stabilize. They listen. They organize. They hold space and carry weight. Their love is most visible when things fall apart, because that's when they're at their most heroic. When the storms hit, they don't flinch, they reinforce the walls and light candles inside. Friendship, the inner circle is sacred. To be considered a friend by someone born on January 2nd is not just a social label, it's a deeply earned position of trust. These Capricorns don't casually toss around the word friend, and they certainly don't hand out emotional access like candy at a party. Friendship, for them, is a bond forged over time, through consistent action, shared values, and mutual loyalty. If you meet a January 2nd Capricorn at a party, they might seem distant or politely guarded, but don't confuse that with disinterest. They're simply scanning. Observing. Deciding if you're a surface-level connection or someone worth emotionally investing in. Unlike extroverted signs who build large social networks with ease, January 2 borns prefer a tight-knit circle, often just a handful of close confidants who've proven they can be counted on. These friendships are depth over volume, always. They tend to avoid drama, gossip, or emotional chaos. They don't do fake. They don't do flakiness. What they do offer, though, is something increasingly rare, a friendship built on absolute reliability, wisdom, and integrity. If a January 2nd friend says they'll be there, they will, no excuses, no delays. If they sense you're struggling, they'll be the one who shows up with a plan, a blanket, and takeout from your favorite spot. Emotionally, they are excellent listeners. They won't always jump in with hugs or wild encouragement, but they will give you clear, honest feedback without cruelty. They see the patterns others miss. They're the ones who tell you, I know it hurts, but here's how we move forward, and then stay by your side while you do. They remember the details that matter. Your favorite band. The day your dog died. The fact that you hate your birthday. They hold on to these things because they care deeply, even if they rarely say it out loud. But this level of loyalty isn't granted easily. In fact, many January 2nd Capricorns have been burned in friendships before, usually by people who mistook their calm demeanor for weakness or their boundaries for emotional coldness. As a result, they can be slow to open up, and may even come off as emotionally unavailable at first. But that's simply them protecting their space. They only want people close to them who are emotionally safe, sincere, and dependable. Their best friendships often last for decades, sometimes even lifetimes. They gravitate toward people with shared values. Virgo friends, with their thoughtful practicality, are natural allies. Scorpios earn their respect with emotional depth and fierce loyalty. Cancers, despite emotional differences, often provide the nurturing support January 2nd Capricorns never ask for but truly need. And when they bond with someone, they rarely let go. Unless there's a breach of trust, then the cutoff can be swift, permanent, and heartbreakingly silent. To have a January 2nd Capricorn as a friend is to have a quiet warrior in your corner. Someone who won't always tell you what you want to hear, but will always tell you what you need. Someone who believes friendship isn't about proximity, it's about presence. Not about parties, but presence of heart. And when you earn that place in their inner circle, it's a place built to last a lifetime. Business and ambition, the empire builders. If you're looking for an employee, collaborator, or entrepreneur who combines vision with execution, look no further than someone born on January 2nd. These Capricorns don't just dream. They structure, strategize, and build, relentlessly. For them, ambition isn't about status for show. It's about legacy. It's about crafting a life of purpose, impact, and tangible results. Whether they run a Fortune 500 company, manage a small creative business, or quietly build a real estate portfolio, January 2 born individuals are empire-minded. They play the long game, and they usually win it. Their secret? Patience, clarity, and emotional discipline. They are incredibly self-motivated, often assuming leadership roles without even asking. That's because they naturally think several moves ahead of others. Their Saturnian influence makes them strategic thinkers with a built-in awareness of time, systems, and consequences. They're not afraid of tedious work. In fact, they thrive on structure. Give them a messy idea and they'll organize it into a business plan, budget, and rollout calendar in record time. While others daydream, they're quietly building infrastructure behind the scenes. But success doesn't come easy, and they don't expect it to. January 2nd Capricorns often carry a heavy sense of responsibility, even as children. They grow up fast, learn self-sufficiency early, and tend to internalize the belief that their worth is tied to what they produce. This can drive them to great achievements, but it also makes them vulnerable to workaholism, imposter syndrome, or burnout. They'll push themselves past exhaustion before asking for help. The idea of failing, or worse, appearing unprepared, is almost unbearable to them. In the workplace, they value competence, efficiency, and integrity. They're not interested in office politics or empty praise. They want results, and they want to work with people who share their standards. If they're in charge, they'll lead with fairness and quiet authority, but they do expect excellence. Sloppiness, indecision, or emotional drama will wear on them fast. They prefer teams that are low maintenance but high output, where everyone knows their role and delivers consistently. Career paths where they often shine include finance, law, architecture, science, leadership, education, and entrepreneurship. But they can thrive in any field, as long as they're allowed to set goals, take ownership, and build something meaningful. They're not interested in short-term wins. They want their work to mean something, to reflect who they are and to leave a mark that outlives them. Financially, they tend to be savvy and cautious. They're planners, not gamblers. They'll invest in long-term security, not impulsive trends. Many are great at budgeting, building wealth, and understanding systems of capital. Even creative types born on January 2nd tend to monetize their art with structure in mind. They believe success should be earned, not given. However, the challenge lies in learning to rest without guilt, to delegate without fear, and to remember that success is meaningless without joy. Their drive is admirable, but their tendency to take on too much, to try and control every variable, can leave them feeling isolated or overwhelmed. That's why their greatest growth often comes from learning to trust others, soften their perfectionism, and define success on their own terms, not society's. In the end, people born on January 2nd are not just career-minded, they are builders of systems, leaders by example, and visionaries in disguise. They don't need spotlights. They just need a blueprint, a purpose, and the space to execute it. And when they do, they don't just succeed, they build empires that stand the test of time. Numerology of January 2nd, the power of the number 2. If you were born on January 2nd, your life is deeply shaped by the vibrational influence of the number 2, a number that speaks not of dominance or glory, but of depth, intuition, and emotional resonance. In numerology, the number 2 is often overshadowed by flashier digits like the ambitious 1 or the charismatic 3. But don't let its quiet nature fool you. The number 2 is the heartbeat of harmony, the undercurrent of influence, and the architect of connection in a world that's too often obsessed with loudness over listening. People born under the influence of the number 2 are often empaths, mediators, and emotional translators. They have a finely tuned inner compass when it comes to reading a room, sensing emotional tension, or understanding the feelings that others haven't yet put into words. A January 2 born individual may not always speak up first, but when they do, they often say the one thing no one else thought to mention, but everyone needed to hear. This emotional precision gives them an almost psychic quality, and it's not unusual for them to just know what others are feeling, even before they say it. In personal relationships, this makes them exceptional partners, friends, and collaborators. They naturally tune into others' needs and often step in to offer support without being asked. Unlike more assertive or attention-seeking numbers, 2s don't need to be center stage. In fact, they prefer to operate behind the scenes, advising, guiding, supporting. They're the quiet strategists, the emotional support beams, the souls who hold others up while asking for little in return. But this generosity comes with a challenge: overgiving and self-suppression. Because they are so attuned to the needs of others, January 2 born individuals can easily fall into the trap of sacrificing their own desires in order to maintain peace or avoid conflict. Their deep sensitivity makes them vulnerable to criticism, especially from people they care about. One harsh word can echo in their minds for days. And their desire to be liked or needed can sometimes mask a deeper fear, the fear of being unworthy if they're not being useful. This is where the true lesson of the number 2 reveals itself, not in how it connects to others, but in how it learns to connect to itself. For January 2nd individuals, the journey is about learning when to step into leadership, when to assert their own truth, and when to stop cushioning others from discomfort at the expense of their own voice. While the number 2 is naturally passive, it holds the potential for quiet power, the kind of influence that doesn't need a spotlight to make change. When January 2 borns embrace this, they step into their role not just as supporters, but as visionary collaborators, equal partners, and soulful leaders. Professionally, their number gives them a unique advantage in fields that require tact, insight, and relational intelligence. They make excellent therapists, negotiators, designers, human resources specialists, teachers, artists, and project managers. Anywhere emotional nuance or team harmony is required, they shine. But for long-term success, they must learn to set emotional boundaries, to say no, and to value their time and energy as much as they value everyone else's. In love, their 2 energy makes them deeply romantic, though often in subtle ways. They express affection through acts of care, remembering your favorite meal, creating a soothing environment, intuitively knowing when you need a break. They don't need grand gestures. They need emotional presence and reciprocity. Relationships that are one-sided or built on emotional instability can quickly drain them. What they long for most is a bond rooted in mutual understanding, loyalty, and shared calm. When aligned and balanced, January 2nd individuals possess an almost magical ability to bring people together, resolve conflicts with grace, and nurture the emotional lives of those around them. Their softness is not weakness, it's a superpower in a world that desperately needs more compassion, nuance, and emotional wisdom. And the key to unlocking their full numerological potential? It's simple, but not easy. Trust your voice as much as you trust your intuition for others. Because once a January 2 born person learns to lead from within, rather than just supporting from the side, they become not just a helper, but a quiet force capable of changing everything they touch. Not through noise. Not through force. But through the powerful, lasting impact of a soul in alignment with its purpose, to connect, to heal, and to bring balance to a world out of rhythm. Druid Horoscope, the Fir Tree. In the ancient Druidic tree astrology system, which connects individuals to the sacred wisdom of the natural world, those born on January 2nd fall under the sign of the fir tree. And like the tree itself, tall, evergreen, quietly majestic, these individuals possess a depth of presence that can't be taught. Fir tree personalities are not loud or attention-seeking, but when they walk into a room, they carry a kind of unshakable stillness. They're the ones who may not speak first, but when they do, people stop to listen. The fir symbolizes clarity, endurance, and silent strength. It stands tall through every season, bearing snow, wind, and time itself. And this is exactly how January 2 born individuals operate emotionally and spiritually. They don't crack under pressure, they absorb it, process it internally, and grow deeper roots. You may never see them panic, even during chaos, because their inner world is structured for survival and reflection. They're not reactionary. They're philosophical, always searching for meaning behind the moment. What truly defines a fir tree person is their aura of maturity, often from a young age. As children, they may seem wise beyond their years, with an unusual ability to read between the lines or notice emotional undercurrents. As adults, they're naturally drawn to roles that involve guidance, mentorship, or protecting others, even if it's from behind the scenes. People tend to trust them instinctively, not because they're flashy or charismatic, but because they exude something timeless, an inner gravity that commands quiet respect. But this same gravity can also lead to their deepest internal struggle, melancholy and perfectionism. Because fir tree individuals are always reaching for a higher standard, of thought, of living, of purpose, they can become easily discouraged by the imperfections of the world around them. Or worse, by their own perceived failures. They may carry an invisible weight, the belief that it's their job to hold it all together, to be the calm in the storm, to not burden anyone with their emotions. Over time, this can lead to burnout or isolation unless they learn that solitude is nourishing only when it's chosen, not when it's a shield against vulnerability. Emotionally, fir tree individuals tend to guard their hearts, but once they trust someone, they reveal a rich inner world filled with loyalty, imagination, and surprising romanticism. They are highly selective in their friendships and relationships, not out of elitism, but because their energy is sacred, and they treat it that way. They do best with partners and friends who are emotionally intelligent, honest, and capable of appreciating their reflective nature without trying to fix it. The fir tree also represents foresight and legacy. Those born under its influence often have a long-term vision for their lives and for the lives of others. They may not chase trends or leap into the unknown, but they quietly shape the future through deliberate choices. In crisis, they lead not by shouting orders, but by calmly walking others out of the fog. To know someone born under the fir tree is to know the quiet power of nature, the kind that doesn't demand your attention, but slowly earns your reverence. Their gift is vision. Their challenge is softness. And their life journey is about learning to let in the light, even when standing strong in the shadow. Flower Horoscope, Carnation. The symbolic flower for January 2nd is the carnation, and not just any carnation, but the deep red variety, known throughout history as a bloom of devotion, deep love, and enduring strength. While other flowers may dazzle briefly before fading, carnations are hardy. They bloom in cold seasons, endure through stress, and remain upright long after others have wilted. And so it goes with people born on this day. Their beauty is not in drama or extravagance, but in resilience, quiet elegance, and the power of subtle emotion. In the language of flowers, red carnations speak of love that is fierce but composed, passionate but loyal. This mirrors the January 2 born soul to the core. They may not be the type to chase romance with flamboyant displays, but when they love with depth, discretion, and longevity. There's a grounded grace to their affection. It isn't about fireworks. It's about lighting a flame that stays lit through the storms. Emotionally, these individuals are complex and layered, much like the tightly ruffled petals of a carnation. At first glance, they may appear controlled, even cool. But spend time with them, and you'll uncover subtle gestures, thoughtful acts of service, and protective warmth. They don't broadcast their emotions because they don't believe in performative connection. They show up with consistency, not chaos. And for those who take the time to earn their trust, the emotional rewards are rich, sincere, and lasting. Like the flower that thrives in winter, January 2 born individuals often shine under pressure. They are the ones who hold families together during hard times, the co-workers who manage crises without cracking, the friends who remember your hardest days and quietly check in weeks later. Their beauty is in their endurance, not their need for recognition. But the carnation also carries a message of distinction and emotional strength, traits that define the Capricorn spirit beneath the surface. January 2 borns are not afraid to stand apart from the crowd. They don't follow trends for approval. They don't conform for comfort. Instead, they cultivate lives of meaning and purpose, even if that means being misunderstood at first. Their flower reminds us that you don't have to shout to be unforgettable. There's also something deeply symbolic about the timing of this flower's bloom. In the coldest, harshest months, when most life retreats, carnations lean into the frost and still manage to flourish. And that, perhaps, is the greatest metaphor for the January 2nd soul. These are the people who find purpose in adversity, clarity in solitude, and love in the stillness. They don't crumble when life gets cold, they bloom despite it. So when you think of someone born on January 2nd, don't imagine roses or fireworks. Imagine a deep red carnation in winter, bold yet understated, quietly powerful, and impossibly enduring. A symbol of loyalty, subtle strength, and a love that may not always be loud, but is always real. Birthstone wisdom, garnet. The garnet, birthstone of those born on January 2nd, is more than just a deep red jewel, it's a symbol of resilience, protection, and enduring inner fire. For centuries, warriors wore garnets into battle as talismans against injury and fear. Travelers carried them to guard against misfortune. Lovers exchanged them as tokens of eternal commitment. And for those born under the early light of January, this stone holds a particularly powerful resonance, reflecting both their grounded nature and their passionate emotional core. At its essence, garnet is the stone of strength through alignment. Its vibrant, blood-red glow represents not only the vitality of the life force, but the unshakable courage needed to face adversity with grace. For January 2 borns, who are naturally introspective, thoughtful, and often deeply involved in the lives of others, this gemstone acts like a battery charger for the emotional body. It stabilizes moods, enhances motivation, and gently but firmly pulls the wearer out of overthinking and back into embodied presence. Capricorns born on January 2nd have a mind that rarely rests. They are strategic thinkers, constantly analyzing, planning, and projecting forward. But this constant mental motion can sometimes disconnect them from their emotional instincts, creating stress, anxiety, or decision fatigue. That's where garnet steps in, not just as a pretty ornament, but as an energetic anchor. It invites its wearer to ground their intelligence in the wisdom of the heart, to trust that what they feel is just as valid as what they know. Spiritually, garnet is linked to the root chakra, which governs our sense of security, belonging, and personal power. For a January 2nd Capricorn, whose Saturn-ruled energy craves stability and meaning, garnet reinforces a deep sense of self-worth and emotional grounding. It tells them, you are safe to feel, safe to love, safe to lead. It helps them build internal structures strong enough to support the ambitions they pursue so relentlessly. In relationships, garnet's connection to commitment and loyalty mirrors the Capricorn's highest ideals. It reminds them that real love is not about fleeting passion but enduring presence. It encourages honesty, devotion, and long-term thinking, traits that January 2nd individuals naturally gravitate toward. Worn close to the body, as a ring, pendant, or tucked into a pocket, it becomes a daily companion for self-remembrance, a physical reminder that while the world may pull them in 10 different directions, their true power lies within. Garnet also has a reputation for revitalizing energy, both physically and emotionally. January 2nd Capricorns are hard workers, but their intense drive can often lead to burnout if they're not careful. Garnet helps to restore balance, supporting the body's natural rhythms and encouraging deeper rest. Its energy is warm and stabilizing, perfect for calming nerves before major life decisions, or for those quieter moments when they feel overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility. In the end, garnet is the perfect mirror for the January 2nd soul, strong but tender, rich in color and depth, protective yet open to intimacy. It's not just a stone, it's a symbol of the emotional mastery these individuals are destined to achieve. Vedic Astrology, Dhanu Sagittarius to Makara Capricorn. In Vedic astrology, one of the world's oldest and most spiritually intricate astrological systems, those born on January 2nd typically fall under Makara Rashi, or the sign of Capricorn. Ruled by the planet Shani Saturn, this placement brings with it themes of discipline, karma, and spiritual maturation. While the Western Capricorn is already known for its ambition and focus, the Vedic Makara takes this energy one step further. It sees the individual not just as a doer, but as a spiritual architect, here to build something that extends beyond the self. Saturn in Vedic astrology isn't just a taskmaster. It's a karmic mentor. It doesn't punish, it teaches. Through trials, responsibilities, and cycles of growth, Saturn shapes the individual into someone capable of profound wisdom, patience, and leadership. For someone born on January 2nd, this can manifest as a lifelong calling toward meaningful work, legacy, or self-discipline that borders on spiritual practice. They may feel from a young age that they are older than their years, or are being prepared for something significant that requires inner strength. Depending on the precise birth time, many January 2 borns fall under the nakshatra of Uttara Ashada, one of the lunar mansions that adds another rich layer of meaning to their astrological identity. Symbolized by the elephant tusk, Uttara Ashada represents enduring victory, righteousness, and unshakable resolve. These individuals are often seen as natural leaders, not necessarily by title, but by action and influence. They have a moral compass that rarely wavers, a strong sense of duty, and an ability to persevere where others give up. But as with all powerful placements, this also comes with challenges. Makara natives must learn to balance worldly ambition with inner peace. They are prone to overburdening themselves, feeling they must carry more than is fair, or delaying personal happiness in the name of responsibility. The spiritual path for them often involves letting go of control, learning surrender, and understanding that not all progress is visible. For January 2nd individuals, progress is often internal before it becomes external. In relationships, the Makara native can be cautious but extremely loyal. Once trust is established, they commit deeply and work hard to protect the bonds they form. Emotionally, they are private, often struggling to express their vulnerabilities, but they yearn for a partner who sees beyond the armor and speaks to the soul. In this sense, they are both traditional and profoundly spiritual, needing a connection that honors both structure and depth. Professionally, they often gravitate toward fields where they can build, guide, or lead, government, law, teaching, finance, or spiritual practice. Even in artistic careers, they tend to bring structure to chaos, often using their work to express timeless values or deep truths. Above all, their path is about mastery, not of others, but of themselves. They are here to align action with wisdom, ambition with humility, and service with soul. Compatibility chart: who matches January 2nd? Understanding compatibility for someone born on January 2nd starts with one core truth: these individuals don't fall in love lightly, and they don't stay in relationships that lack structure, honesty, or emotional purpose. Born under the pragmatic yet deeply feeling sign of Capricorn, they seek a partner who understands that real love isn't fireworks, it's foundation. That's why their best matches are often with signs who bring either emotional resonance or practical synergy. Taurus is an excellent match, steady, sensual, and equally committed to long-term goals. Both signs appreciate loyalty, quality over quantity, and a life built on stability. This pairing often results in a deeply grounded relationship that only gets better with time. Virgo, too, is a natural fit. Analytical, organized, and values-driven, Virgo matches Capricorn's need for order and offers the emotional nuance that softens Capricorn's harder edges. Their connection is often quiet, thoughtful, and rich in mutual respect. With Scorpio, the chemistry is deeper and darker. There's intensity here, emotional, physical, and intellectual. Scorpio challenges Capricorn to dive into emotional vulnerability, while Capricorn offers Scorpio a sense of security and purpose. It's not always easy, but when it works, it's magnetic and fiercely protective. Pisces is another surprising match. While they may seem like opposites on the surface, Pisces helps Capricorn reconnect to their emotional world and intuitive side. Capricorn, in return, gives Pisces the grounding and encouragement they often lack. Together, they balance dreaming and doing. Cancer, Capricorn's opposite sign, offers a relationship full of contrast and growth. Capricorn brings structure, Cancer brings nurture. This can either create perfect emotional harmony or lead to miscommunication if both dig into their comfort zones. Success here depends on mutual maturity. Aries and Leo bring passion and spontaneity, but also challenges. Aries can be too impulsive and independent for Capricorn's methodical pace, while Leo's need for attention may clash with Capricorn's reserved nature. Still, if mutual respect is established, the chemistry can be undeniable. Gemini, Sagittarius, and Aquarius tend to be more difficult matches. These signs value freedom, fluidity, and exploration, traits that can frustrate the structure-loving Capricorn. Gemini's inconsistency, Sagittarius's avoidance of roots, and Aquarius's emotional detachment may leave the January 2 born feeling unstable or unseen. However, with the right shared goals or creative collaborations, even these pairings can find unique synergy. Capricorn with Capricorn is a powerful pairing when both individuals are self-aware and emotionally open. Together, they can build empires, plan legacies, and remain steadfast through anything. But without emotional expression, the relationship may become too practical, lacking tenderness or spontaneity. Ultimately, the most compatible signs with January 2 borns are those who respect depth, value loyalty, and understand the quiet power of commitment. It's not about instant chemistry, it's about building something worth keeping. For these Capricorns, love is not just a feeling. It's a future. Final thought, the quiet power of January 2nd. If your birthday is January 2nd, you were born to build, to lead, and to love deeply, but wisely. Your greatest challenge is trusting that you are enough, even without constant proof of achievement. Your greatest gift. Helping others build stronger, safer, and more meaningful lives, through your patience, your loyalty, and your quiet power. So next time someone calls you too serious, smile. Because you know, the real magic is in the foundation, and no one builds it better than you.